Hello all, welcome to Techie Trainings. So in this series of videos, in this particular playlist, you are going to learn about SQL. So if you start learning something without knowing what you are going to do with it and what is it useful for in real world, it makes no sense, right? So let's start with the basics. So before learning what SQL is and where it is used, so let us know about uh, no data. So SQL is something, it's nothing but called as structured query language, and this structured query language is used to query data from databases. Okay, so before jumping and no before we deep dive into what SQL is, let's learn what is data and how do we need SQL and how do we use SQL for making use of data. Okay, so let's jump into what is data. So theoretically, data is nothing but collection of information, right? So nowadays, data is generated everywhere. So data can be generated through a transaction. It can be generated by measuring something. If you are a person who is working on research, you will be doing lot of observations during your research, and you will be recording everything. Even that will also leads to generation of data. So that data may consist of things like facts, some numbers, some names, some figures that you need to capture. So everything that we write or everything that we need to record and reuse is called as data. So so it ends up was with a question like what is the need of that data. So without data, no business can be analyzed or no business can be forecasted for future. Okay, so if there is no record of data that is available regarding any business or anything that we are going to work on, it's difficult for us to predict what's going to happen in future. So saving of data and retrieval of data is very important. So why is this data essential? So the way how we can say this is, we can say data as a lifesaver even. So let us consider some government data, or else you can even consider some data that is used by government to predict something. Let us say, so a new cyclone is going to come. So if government bodies are not having any data that is related to any district or mandal that it is going to hit, it's difficult for government to handle that situation, right? So in such scenarios, data will be something like a lifesaver, where this government and other agencies can use data to take care of something. So if they want to introduce any new policies, so if they want to introduce any new no welfare scheme without having proper data, it's difficult for any government to handle that. So there will be lot of repercussions that are need to be faced by government if there is no proper data in their hand. So that is the reason nowadays we see each and everywhere Aadhaar is something that is mandatory. With Aadhaar, they can precisely track any particular person in such a way that there won't be any misuse of any government schemes and no these uh, welfare related activities. So data is a problem solver even. Properly collected data will speak to resolve the problems in any organization. So let us say in organization they are having some problem. So they have seen that they are making losses every time. So if they want to analyze like what is the root cause for our losses, or if they want to analyze like uh, what is the reason behind which is causing us, which is pushing us into these kind of losses. So what they can do is if the data is collected well in their systems, then they can just pull that complete whole data across many years, and they can see. So with that data, they can easily analyze that this is the place where we are going wrong, or this is the product in our organization's portfolio, so that is making losses nowadays, which is no which is a super product in olden days, but nowadays that product is not performing well. So whatever may be the decision, they will come to know, they will come to know the root cause of what is causing the problem. So we can even say that data outranks money. People can make the right decisions if the information is gathered is perfect. So the way how people makes money with data is, nowadays we keep scrolling Instagram and Facebook a lot, right? So whatever we scroll, so whatever the attention that we are giving to any post or any reel, so in the background, what happens is they will be collecting data, like what kind of content you like. So what kind of emotions do you have? What kind of features that you exhibit? So for what kind of posts you are clicking on the like button, and if you are you are clicking on the share button. So what is the content that fascinates you? So all this kind of information, this Facebook or this Instagram or your YouTube will be gathering behind the scenes. So based on that, they will be pushing the right products and right services for you in the form of ads, and they will even route you to the right influencers page, which based on the content that you are browsing. So all these things will leads to revenue generation for them, because end of the day you end up paying to any service, or you end up purchasing any product, right? So that will obviously make money for the advertisers as well as the product sellers. So in this way, this whole process will run just only based on data. So data helps to track performance of individuals and events. So we already know that. So I think most of you have completed your college days even. So your marks data is something that judges you end of the day during your whole days in college. And data helps to track events even. So let us say if there is any movie release, or if there is any uh, social event that is being conducted, based upon the number of people that visited the event, and based upon the number of people that have watched any particular show, then only they can decide whether that show is a successful show or that show is not a successful show, based upon the number of audience, the amount of energy and money they have invested in that particular show, and the amount of outcome that they got through the number of visitors or viewers by selling tickets. So for each and every business, data is something that is very, very important. So, and data is the only thing that keeps organizations and individuals to build their decisions, and to build their strategies. So without data, we are nothing nowadays. So this is a small overview of what data is, and how data can be make and use for any purpose. So let's jump into the topic of how data can be saved and how data can be retrieved here. So data can be saved in many ways. In olden days, as there are no electronic uh, no components that are available for them, they used to save data in the form of leaves like this. So in this particular slide, you can also even see that we have something written in the background. So particularly for an Indian scenario, before 1867, we don't have any paper at all. So with the establishment of a Royal Bengal paper mill, then only paper came for Indian audience. So before that, they used to save the whole data that they have. So whatever the stories that they want to preserve, whatever the events that happened in the history, if they want to write it somewhere for the future generations, everything is stored and archived only on these kind of leaves. So with the advancement of technology and when paper came into picture, they started writing things on paper. So from that time, they started writing things onto paper. So what happened while up, after the moment paper came into picture is, so they were trying to save lot of data. So as they are trying to save lot of data, it has become a big problem like securing those data. So whatever the data that is there on paper, it is becoming very difficult tasks for organizations to maintain those things from pests, from fire accidents, from attack of you know uh, competitors and all these things. So even they want to secure this whole data, then they need large places to store all these files and all. So it has become a problematic thing as days pass, because if they want to retrieve some old data, it is very difficult for a person to search rooms and rooms of files, the files that are placed in different rooms. If even nowadays, even right now it is 2023, right? If you go to government register offices and if you see the files in government register offices as well as police stations, so most of the old data that is completely stored on paper based files only. So if you ask for any file that is related to any old case or any old land document, it's very difficult for the government officials to go and get you that particular file. Why? Because everything is stored in the form of papers and they are organized in some files and they were put into some rooms, and because of lack of maintenance by government bodies and all, most of them were already spoiled by spoiled because of natural calamities as well as through termites and all. So with this, it's clearly evident for us that it's very difficult to maintain records or things in paper. So one more disadvantage while maintaining things in the form of papers and books is, so let us say there is a date of birth records that are available across a district. If they want to search for a single name, what happens with that is they need to they at least need to refer uh, 1 lakh to 1 lakh to 2 lakh records, because they don't know where they have placed that and where they have not organized them properly in those days. So whenever they want to search for any particular transaction or any birth or death that is registered or somewhere, they need to go through all the set of files that belongs to that particular year for that particular district. So this would be the case. So if they want to refer something, it's a never-ending task for those people, and people need to spend a lot of time and a number of uh, employees or workforce in any government organizations. For an example here, it's a very big, difficult and challenging task. So if they want to go and search for something, it takes days for them to search all these books and get the accurate data for you. And that is the reason why people used to take a lot of time to retrieve such data. So with this, they came to know that even this way of saving data is not going to help us in long tenure. Then technology came into picture and they started saving data in the form of disks like this. So nowadays data, each and every data will be saved in any particular computer or maybe a server or maybe in a cloud storage location. So that is the advancement of technology now, and that is the way how the whole data will be stored in different servers nowadays. Okay. So these are in this slide you can easily see like in different generations how data is being saved. So after the advancement of paper, so when paper came into picture, they started preserving data in the form of books, and then they used to put data in the form of files and folders so that they can easily sort and search any information required. Even files and folders, no, as their numbers increase, it's difficult for them to maintain those files and folders. So that's the reason why they shifted to the latest advancement, that is they started using technology, and this technology is nothing but database technology. So if you want to store any data and if you want to retrieve any data from any database technology, you need to learn a language called as the SQL. SQL is nothing but structured query language. So SQL is nothing but structured query language, and that is the language that you use to store data into any database and to retrieve data from the database. So if you want to store any record into database, you need to write some SQL. So, and if you want to retrieve any data from the database also, you need to get that by writing a SQL query. Okay. So that is the importance of SQL here. So let us say if there is a government organization, or we can narrow it down to a register of births and deaths. If they want to record any person's birth, they end up writing some SQL somewhere that will go and register that particular record into register of births and deaths database. Okay. So let us say if a credit card transaction is done, you have swiped your credit card somewhere. So that transaction is recorded in the bank's database. So without these transactions being recorded, it's difficult for them to record your bank transaction, and they need to show your updated balance, right? So each and every transaction is needed to be recorded somewhere, and they will be used for different purposes. To either, if it is a bank scenario, they will be calculating your outstanding balance. If it is no, if it is some other attendance register, they will be calculating your attendance percentage. So and vice versa. So depending upon the purpose of which the database is designed for, they will be using it for that purpose. But the SQL is the only language through which you communicate with the database. So you need to know SQL to communicate with the database. So SQL is very simple language. So if you go through SQL, you will come to know that in our next series of sessions that we are going to have. So it's nothing but writing few set of lines of queries to fetch the required data, and it's nothing but a kind of protocol that you use to save data and retrieve data, and we will come to know more of related to such details in the coming videos. So that's all about in this video. If you like this content, please do subscribe and share with your friends as well. Thank you guys.